Hello and a big welcome back to all my subscribers, and if you're not a subscriber, what's wrong with you? Why not? Right, today I'm probably going to do what is most likely to be the last in my sort of beginner's RISC assembly language series. I think I've pretty much covered everything you would need to know. If you think I need to cover some other stuff, please leave some comments and I'll try and develop some more videos and sort of lessons from comments I received. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Today I'm going to cover macros and decomposition of large assembly language programs into multiple files. Now I'm using the GCC toolchain. If you're using another toolchain, the way that this is done may be different. But in general, the principles should be the same. So let's just quickly have a look at that. If I go to my screen, here we are. Now you can see that I've done the normal makefile. No difference. This has been the same makefile I've used throughout all of these lessons, more or less, with just a change to the name. Let me show you the source code. Well, actually, before I do that, let me show you the program running. So all I do is show the register value, and then I'm counting down through a register value. Now, the source code for this is different. If I show you the source code directory, you can see that there are two types of files in there. You notice there's a .h as well as a .s. So let's look at them both. Now, we're going to start with the .h file, which is here on the left, and then we'll move to the other one. Now, you can see that if you remember the string, we had just the register value, and then it printed out the value. Here we've got a macro defined for this, and in the macro, it's got the source code that it's going to use, but you can see that the macro has a name and an argument, which is reg. And what we're doing is this /reg is the replacement. So whatever is passed in up here will get replaced here in the macro. Now the reason that you might want to do a macro is if you need to do something repeatedly. But anyway, so what we're doing here is we allocate a space on the stack, and then we store this register on the stack, because we don't actually know what it is. It might be the A register, they might pass in a T register, an S register, we don't know, and so it's best thing to store it. And then we move the address into A0, the message into A0, and then the register into A1. We call the print function, and then we load the saved value back from the stack, and then we restore the stack. So that is the macro. Now a macro in GCC is defined with a dot macro and dot end m. So that is how you put the macro. Now what does a macro actually do? Well, a macro is just a replacement. So here you can see I've got print reg, which was our macro, and I've got it again here, and I've got it again here. So all that the macro does is actually just replace this with the appropriate text. So it basically copies this here and replaces the /reg, so it does the substitution, and it just prints it here. So when it compiles this, it doesn't actually run the macro. All it does is replace this with the macro and the correct values that you were passed. So here all we're doing is we just print the A3 register and the value in it, and then here we load 15 into the A3, and then we print the value of it, and then we do a loop where we decrement it, and then we branch if A3 is greater than 0 back, which is our loop, otherwise it just drops to exit. But you can see it's a very simple program, but it is using the macro. Now you can, and originally I did, just have the macro here at the top. But to show you how to decompose or modularize something, I put this include statement in. So if you've used C, you'll be familiar with include statements, or Java, or pretty much anything. But you include the other file by name here. Now, that is included. If you were going to do in a function and include, you will most likely, but not always, need to make the function global. Now the reason I say that is if I call, let's say I've got a function called Fred, right? So if I've got a function called Fred, I might need to make Fred, but let's go back. Let me just show you. If I'm going to, in here, this is my .h file, or this could be another .s file. If I'm going to declare something and I want it to be visible in the other file, then I need to make it global. So that's basically how you do it. So if I want to make it visible in this .s file, I'm going to need to include it, and that function is going to have to be a global function so that the compiler knows where to get it when this file references it, but also the linker will also know when you got duplicate definitions and things like that. So that's pretty much it. It's really straightforward. It's just .include, and then you put quotations around the actual file name. This can be a full path or whatever, but since this is in the same directory, I don't need to bother with that. And the macro can then be called because it's defined in the other one. Remember when you do a macro that you have to have a begin and an end. So .macro to start it and .endm to end it. In the GCC tool chain, other things might be slightly different, but generally that's how you do a macro. And a macro it's just doing a replacement for you when it compiles it. It's just putting this code in place, in line where you're putting it. One problem you will have with macros is if you're trying to do a loop, because remember, if I put in here a label for loop, I'm going to run into problems here, because this is just copying and pasting it into every place where I've called this macro by name, which means you'll have multiple definitions of this label, which you can't have because it won't be able to work out where it should go. So anyway, that's just one of the issues that you may wind up having when you use a macro, is you're not going to be able to define things multiple times, because this is literally just copying and pasting in reality here. So it's literally just copying and pasting that macro into there. So if you had that loop thing, like I said, it would have a loop label here, a loop label here, and a loop label here, and it wouldn't know which one to jump to. So you can't do it. Well, is not easy to do, and probably best avoided if you want to do that. The easiest way to do that would be to just define a function rather than a macro, if you were going to do that, and then include that function. So again, just run it. You remember A3, it just printed the value, which was 0. Then we set 15 as the value, and it decrements it down to 0. So it's a really simple program, really easy to use, but it should show you everything you need to know when you're trying to use RISC assembly, GCC toolchain for macros and decomposition of sort of large assembly language files. And assembly language can get quite big very fast, and it is very nice to be able to break it up into, you know, its component parts to make debugging and things a lot easier. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this sort of video. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And just to say that I am an author, and if you would like to check out some of my books, you can go to xgipublishing.com, and there you can find some of my books from my publishing company, and they're available also on Amazon, Kindle, Nook, Smashwords, you name it, it's all there, Apple. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.